Breaststroke is the world's most popular stroke, but few people swim it efficiently. The secret isn't how you pull and kick, but how well you glide below the surface in a long, sleek streamline. On this DVD, TI founder Terry Laughlin will demonstrate breaststroke for boomers, which we've designed for swimmers of any age or those with less experience or skill. TI coach Stefan Bill demonstrates speed breaststroke, an advanced version for those who may be younger or more athletic. And finally, several total immersion coaches show you how they practice our drill sequence. Our step-by-step instruction will lead you almost effortlessly from the most basic drill to swimming the whole stroke comfortably and without fatigue, and give you the foundation to swim with unprecedented speed and power. You'll learn faster and easier if you take the time to thoroughly understand each step. Learn to do each skill with ease, flow, and coordination before moving to the next. Let's begin learning. I'm Terry Laughlin. We're at my home pool and we're going to do a breaststroke lesson. I'm not a natural breaststroker. It took a long time for me to learn, even to get my toes turned out, but I felt progressively better, and at the age of 55 I actually feel like a breaststroker and feel like I do it better than I ever have in my life. So we're going to show you the steps that enabled me to get to the point where I feel like a breaststroker. Before we start learning breaststroke skills, let's examine how all the parts should work together to make each stroke more effective. Your lowest drag, highest speed position is streamlined just below the surface. This tells us two things. One, you want to spend as much time as possible in that position. Two, plan every other part of the stroke, how you pull, kick, and breathe, to allow you to return quickly to that position. Fortunately, streamlining is easy to learn. The first key is to have your head between your arms. The second key is to avoid diving and streamline barely below the surface. The arm stroke has two phases: outsweep and insweep. The outsweep provides little propulsion. Its job is to position your hands for insweep. Your outsweep should be unhurried and relatively relaxed. It's essential to keep your head and legs streamlined throughout. Also, keep your hands well forward of your face during outsweep. This makes it easier to return to streamline. Propulsion begins when you turn your hands in. Concentrate your energy here. Focus on spinning your hands forward to streamline. They may still sweep under your chin, but this will return you to streamline faster. Spin your hands forward as quickly and as cleanly as you can. Fast elbows on insweep help accelerate your hands forward. The insweep lifts the head and shoulders. That's our natural opportunity to breathe. Rather than lift your chin, keep your head still and breathe when natural lift clears your mouth. Keeping your mouth near the surface and gaze downward helps you return to streamline faster and more smoothly. How you return to streamline also makes a difference. Move your head forward between your arms, not down, to channel your momentum forward. And return your head to streamline at the exact moment your arms come together to maximize that momentum. Finally, remember to exhale while in streamline. Your kick should synchronize with every other movement. As insweep lifts your shoulders, it also makes the knees bend. naturally initiating the kick. This lift also creates a low drag surface from shoulders to knees as your legs bend. A fast in-sweep helps snap your feet toward you. You don't need to use leg muscle here. When your body line begins to shorten, move as quickly as possible, returning to streamline. To aid that, keep your kick compact and quick. Don't try to grab a lot of water or push it too far. Snap your feet forward and back in one cat-like movement. As you thrust, hips, not thighs, should provide most of the power. And feel your leg thrust accelerate your hands, head, and torso back to streamline. Then keep your legs streamlined tightly the entire time you're underwater. So let's begin our stroke building lessons. Okay, our first exercise in breaststroke is going to be to introduce the hand sweeps, because our most important skill in breaststroke is returning to a long streamlined body line. That's what we'll focus on here, is starting in a long body line, sweeping out, and then returning to that streamlined body line. The two most important things I do here are move very gently and keep my hands as far forward as I can. Think of a Y position when my hands are spread, and an I position when they're together. I pause at Y to set my grip. I pause at I to emphasize streamline. I take my time going to Y. I add speed returning to I. I also experiment with how wide I can reach and still control the water. Step on flutter kicks to stay in place in the current. You can do this in a regular pool to maintain momentum, but kick gently if you do. Experiment with setting your Y as wide as Stefan's. My object here is to start imprinting a habit where my hands return forward, and just as they get to full extension, my head returns to a good streamline between my arms. So I'm going to do that subtly here, even though there's no breath. Pausing at my widest point helps me decide how far I should outsweep. Here, I consciously streamline my head between my arms. Your legs may sink, as mine do. The next step will correct that. Notice how subtly my head streamlines between my arms. Just that slight emphasis on returning my head to streamline as my hands return to streamline caused my body to dolphin a little bit, and the more dynamic movement moves me down the pool in fewer cycles. All right, so I'll do that one more time, consciously return the head to streamline, and you can observe that I move a little further on each of those arm sweeps just by adding a conscious movement forward of the head into a streamline. My head movement is as gentle as my arms, but it's unmistakable. I streamline it between my arms as I extend forward. When you do this, direct your head forward, not down. By moving his head forward, Stefan initiates a dolphin in his body. Now we'll add the breath. I'll do it infrequently. I'm going to need a little bit of current because as I let my head come up for the breath, the movement becomes more dynamic yet, so in order not to get to the other end too fast, I'll need a gentle current. But the main lesson for me in this step of the exercise is to feel when's the natural time in the movement to get the breath, so the breath isn't something that happens separately, but is integral to the movement. I don't try to get air. Instead, I let my mouth clear the water on in-sweep. Notice the tiny gap between my mouth and the surface when I breathe. That's the key to my stable head position. I now have a gentle dolphin, produced entirely by my breathing action. The most important lesson there, though, was that there's a natural time to fit the breath into the movement and make it seamless, and not to have the breath be independent. Another thing that happens very commonly that where the head really messes up the line of the body and the movement forward of the body is this sort of movement in the breath. So I'll do it incorrectly for a few cycles and then do it correctly so you can see the difference between chin movement and letting the head simply lift as a part of the in-sweep and then fold forward smoothly as a part of the streamline. Controlling head movement is key to channeling energy forward. Because of this, my body rebalances each time I streamline. Notice how moving his head forward and streamlining dynamically creates a natural wave in Stefan's hips. Notice how much time Stefan spends streamlined below the surface, and how quickly he returns to that position after he starts to stroke. Now that I have the breath integrated, I'll start integrating the legs into the action. All right, and what I'll do is feel the moment when that in-sweep causes my knees to bend. And I'm not going to do a breaststroke kick yet. I'm just going to follow that knee bend with a flick of the toes. And I'm going to time that toe flick so that it synchronizes with the spearing forward of my hands. I'm trying to minimize knee bend here. I want to feel my legs react naturally when my shoulders lift on in-sweep. My knees bend naturally as my head and shoulders lift. Then I flick my toes as I streamline. If Stefan aimed his hands more forward, his body would streamline nearer the surface. Using a toe flick or dolphin rather than breast kick helps me return quickly to streamline. I aim to feel that flicking my toes drives my hands to streamline. As Stefan aims his hands more forward, his body streamlines just below the surface rather than diving. Again, Notice how smoothly, yet strongly, Stefan returns to streamline just below the surface. As I bring in the open feet of the breaststroke kick, I'll do it infrequently. I'll do several dolphins or toe flicks followed by one breaststroke kick. I want my breast kick to feel just as quick and compact as my dolphin kick, but breast kicks drive me forward more. When I open my feet, they should barely be wider than my hips. I try to minimize knee bend on both dolphin and breast kicks. Notice how Stefan thrusts forward more powerfully when he opens his feet. I'll practice with infrequent breaststroke kicks until I feel that the breaststroke kicks are just as compact and quick as the dolphin kicks. And then as that starts to emerge as a habit, then I'll just make the breaststroke kicks more frequent. So now I'll do one dolphin, one breast, one dolphin, one breast. Notice how quick the breast kicks are. That's because I imprint quickness with dolphins. The dolphin imprints the feeling I aim for on the breast kick. Stefan puts as much snap in his feet on the breast kick as on his dolphin. Now I've brought the breaststroke kick into the whole body movement, but I haven't really focused yet on the kick itself, how to take the kick. So now we'll start a series of exercises to make you more aware of how to do the kick and make that fit in effectively with the other movements. I'm going to start with just very small kicks, making them as small as I can. I won't put a breath into this. I'm just going to leave my arms forward. I don't have to be streamlined. I can just leave them forward. And as I do, I'm also going to consciously streamline my head as I complete each kick. As I finish the thrust, I'll subtly streamline my head. My primary focus here is streamlining everything that's forward of my hips, especially as I thrust my feet. Even though I'm not breathing, I consciously move my head slightly forward as I thrust my feet back. This begins to imprint an action that will increase forward momentum when I do take a breath. Stefan's slight head movement contributes noticeably to his compact body dolphin. I'm going to put the breath in infrequently. I'll breathe about every third or fourth kick, so I can really focus on streamlining, and then when I put the breath in, see if I can get back to streamline just as well as when I didn't take a breath. Though my movements are small and gentle, I still achieve good propulsion, even against a current, because I focus intently on avoiding resistance. Now I'll breathe every second kick, so I'm increasing my breathing frequency a little bit more. When I don't breathe, I streamline full time. When I skull and breathe, I focus on returning to streamline. Stefan moves his head so subtly, it's hard to tell from this angle when he's breathing and when he's not. Here, you can tell when his mouth clears the water, but there's no change in how he returns to streamline just below the surface. Stefan's head position never changes, and his mouth barely clears the surface when he breathes. And now I'll do a mini pull on every kick. We use a mini pull at this point to emphasize that returning to streamline is still our priority. Re-streamlining can be more of a challenge when breathing every cycle. The mini pull makes that easier. I'm trying to keep everything as compact as possible. I'm trying to get just barely below the surface as I streamline. Notice how far forward my hands stay. Stefan has a compact dolphin, but his key skill is lining up his body and spending more time below the surface than above it. The last breaststroke drill before doing regular whole stroke is going to be a dolphin drill, where I start with a dolphin, take a stroke, and then finish with a dolphin and glide a little bit before I start with a dolphin again. I want to be patient on my outsweep, then quick, almost cat-like in returning to streamline. Hip action contributes to that quickness. Because I'm less supple than a younger person, the dolphin doesn't raise my hips much, but I can feel a difference in power and speed. Notice how long I stay extended and how quickly I return to streamline after each breath. I'm trying to feel my hips move in the same way after the stroke as they do before it. Stefan, being younger and more flexible, gets a more pronounced hip action. Notice how his body wave drives him forward, perhaps as much as his leg thrust. We've tried to illustrate every important detail in the stroke building segments. Here, I'll contrast my stroke, breaststroke for boomers, with Stefan's. Because my back and leg flexibility are just average, I focus more on avoiding drag than on creating propulsion. Smoothly returning my head to streamline, lining up just below the surface, keeping my body line long, returning quickly to streamline. These are all achievable objectives for any swimmer. Stefan is great at piercing the water as he lunges. He darts through a small hole in the surface with his arms, head, and shoulders. Then he lines up to travel as far as he can just below the surface. A major advantage is how smoothly he gets his head between his arms after breathing. Can you see how he avoids the oncoming current by streamlining just below it? In a regular pool, the area of highest drag is also right at the surface. This section illustrates how to transition from a long, efficient stroke to a faster one by adjusting stroke timing. In 2 count, Stefan holds his streamline for 2 seconds, 1/1000 to 1000, before separating his hands. Spread your hands just as you reach the surface and keep your head in line as you do. This tempo is good for building efficiency and for longer swims or races. In 1 count breast, hold your streamline for 1/1000. Your glide will be a bit shallower, so you'll return to the surface sooner. Use this tempo to add speed or for shorter distances. In touch and go, spread your hands as soon as your feet touch, but make sure you reach full streamline before you do. This tempo is good for sprint races and short training repeats, but it will really test your ability to keep your stroke smooth and coordinated. In sprint tempo, practice having your hands already at shoulder width by the time your feet touch. It could take months or years to stay efficient at this tempo. Alternating fly and breast cycles will improve both strokes. The outsweep and core body rotation are very similar. But most important is breathing the same way in each. Dave rehearses breaststroke breathing, practicing rhythmic breaths with shoulder lift, not moving his head. Next, you can add arm sweeps as Hosh does here. Like Hosh, keep your hands well forward, breathe as your hands turn in, and return your face to water as your hands extend. Lifting your elbows on in-sweep is also important. Dave pauses at the Y position, then spins gently to the I position. Hosh shows quick hands on in-sweep and keeps his body line long. Notice how Shinji sends a gentle wave down to his feet. Watch him build on this in every drill to follow. Laura glides patiently between cycles. As we add a dolphin, Dave hunches his back a bit too much. Hosh shows how just rotating the elbows can initiate a wave action. He still shows good hand speed forward. As Shinji adds a small head and chest movement, his body wave becomes more pronounced. His legs just follow along. By bending her knees, Laura actually interrupts the wave motion. She also initiates her breath a moment too soon, before her hands turn in. As Dave adds a breath, his head remains steady and his hands are nearly extended before his face is back in the water. You never see his goggles, which means he never sees the end of the pool as he breathes. What's most striking here is how much speed and energy can be generated from in-sweep to the lunge forward. Hosh's hands are quick, but not rushed. He's fully extended as his face comes down. He really gets his head and hands together as he darts forward. Both Hash and Shinji are cat-like as they launch from the breath to re-entry. Sleek re-entry turns that into great distance underwater. Notice how Shinji's dolphin accelerates his hands. And look at how he narrows his front end to pierce the water on re-entry. Laura has a tendency to lift her head slightly just before stroking. This is a common error. Because we see more of Laura's face here, she feels more resistance. Laura is doing better at controlling her head movement. This is one of our favorite body dolphin exercises. Start with slow, wide sculls. Gradually increase rhythm and spin the hands closer together until your skull becomes a breaststroke arm sweep, including a breath at that point. This is best practiced for short distances. Keep your knees below the surface. Shinji does it well. Dave needs work. Hands at your sides is also an option. Hash shows another good way to imprint hip action. Lean on your chest as you finish the kick and feel your hips roll. Shinji adds a sneaky breath, breathing as his heels lift. Dave's breath is very sneaky. His mouth barely clears the water. Hash's breath is also efficient, but he thrusts his head down a bit too strongly. Shinji works on a super compact kick, his feet barely separating, and sculls his hands out and in without pulling. From here, it looks like a dolphin, but he actually turns his toes out without separating his feet much. Starting without a breath helps Dave keep his head steady when he does breathe. Hash spreads his knees too much, but his head position is good. A strong dolphin before each stroke helps imprint more hip action in the stroke. Alternating butterfly with breaststroke is another way to imprint more hip action in your stroke. Watching from deck level is the best way to appreciate how well our coaches hug the surface in both strokes. Shinji does a great job of minimizing his bow wave. The less energy you spend making waves, the more you have for moving forward. Good luck and have fun practicing breaststroke the total immersion way. Take the time at each step to really understand how to work with the water, and you'll learn faster and swim better. Happy laps!